Oh, well, that ain't much. Sub 40 degree cold start. Will she go? What is that? 36? That's about as cold as it ever gets around here, so I wonder if the glow plugs will actually, glow. Alright, let's give it a whirl. I think coldest I've ever started this thing, it was like mid 40s. Alright, now we wait 15 seconds. Alright. Woohoo! We were just about out of battery. Well, guess I'm gonna go warm her up, charge battery. Good to know that we have great compression and great glow plugs, and she'll even cold start for as cold as it ever gets in Charleston. Like, I think maybe if I'm lucky we might see like an upper 20s. Maybe. I guess unlucky. Well, I'll be fucked. The heat actually kind of works. Not well, but 70 degree is much better than 30. Well, these guys fell off, so instead of doing the right thing, I just bought longer self-tapping screws, and we'll put those back on. That's betterish. Alright, so I've been thinking, I got another harebrained idea. If I'm going to be driving this car anywhere, I need to be able to lock it. That lock over there works, but the key does not fit that door for some reason. But I can lock that side. Trunk locks just fine, but this key here is just borked. The key will only go halfway in. There's no fixing it. I can't even lock that knob there. So I gotta figure out some way to secure this door, just to keep people from getting their grubby mitts in there. And I think I'm just gonna do the old door latch trick, just throw a hasp on there. But I'd kind of prefer not to do anything to the exterior paint if possible. I mean, I will if I need to, but I'd prefer not to. And I think I have a solution. If I take a piece of steel and bend it like this, it'll fit just like that right here, and like that, and then with some movie magic, the door shuts onto the piece of steel. And if I can just find some proper countersunk self-tapping screws, which I actually think I have some, I can just put that just like that and have a little hook right here. Just might even get some, I think I need to make, this is just some cheapo garbage mild steel. I might need to get someone to weld me up something fancier and find some higher carbon steel, or maybe some spring steel or something, and just have like a little hoop right here, and I can just run a bike lock through the door handle down into here. And I mean, it doesn't need to be anything crazy, just enough that you can't get your physical body in there. And yeah, I'm not going to put anything worth stealing in here anyway. I just don't want anyone to just open the door and just take a shit in the car, because people will do that. I've seen some stuff in college, things I don't want to remember. But anywho, to get my mind off of that, I think I'm going to do something like that. And the only damage that'll be to the car is just 2 screw holes right here. And I don't know what this sticker was, but it's gone. I'm not drilling through the VIN plate. That would be stupid. But I think I can actually get something going. I'm thinking just a bike lock will be enough. And then when I don't want to use it, I just throw the bike lock in the car. And then this will just be, dirty dangling, sticking out the side of the car like that. But it didn't stick out any, further past the windows, and probably won't get run into, maybe. Okay, so there that is. This metal was thick enough. I couldn't find my self-tapping screws, so I just had to use some fine thread. The only countersunk machine screws I could find. This guy has been tapped for, I think it was 10 and something, and this ended up just being sheet metal right here, so I couldn't tap it. But a 3/6, I did wallow it out a bit, and a 3/16 by 1/8 inch blind rivet will fit in there just nicely. And I already tested that and drilled it back out. because I gotta go find one of my cousins or something to just kind of booger weld this all up right here, and then I can trim this and then, you know, sand it down, make it a little bit, you know, smoother, and then I'll have that. I really wish I was able to get 2 screws in there so that I could like take this on and off, but I'm gonna have to rivet it, and I'll just have to live with that, or just keep it, you know, in the trunk in case of emergency with like a rivet gun or something. If I would have had some of those like conical, like self-tapping sheet metal screws, which I don't think they make countersunk, but whatever, that would have been perfect, because I could have just run that in there and it would have just, you know, mushroomed out the sheet metal like that and cut its own threads. But we're past that point now, so we're kind of fucked, but whatever. I guess if I really wanted to, I could cut a little hole in there and stuff a nut in there and get someone to weld that in place, and I'd be able to thread into it or something, but that's a lot of work, so I ain't doing that. So we'll just have this, and I mean, it'll work with just 1 screw if I really need it to. It's just kind of wiggly, but if I don't plan to keep it on there permanently and just keep a screwdriver in the car and just back it in and out, then that'll work. Plus I can always drill another hole right over there if I really want to. Okay, so I'm thinking on this bracket, and I really would like to have it held on by 2 screws. I would prefer not to rivet it if possible, just because I want to be able to take the thing on and off and use it as needed, rather not have it just hanging out the car, you know, willy-nilly all the time. And so I did some thinking, and I realized if I got some extra short hollow wall anchors, specifically a kind that just was flush and you could just pull it as tight as you wanted, because the modern ones nowadays, you know, they put, you know, 1/4 inch 3/8 spacer on there so that you don't, like, it doesn't like swell up and destroy drywall or something like that. They don't really design them for sheet metal. And I was thinking, you know, I could cut a groove and with a Dremel and inlet this if I needed. Then I just happened to have a thing of anchors here for my grandfather, and he just so happened to have some like flush fit ones. And the only downside is these require like a 5/16 hole for them to fit. You see there? It's a little bit bigger than a 1/4, which is annoying. I would rather not drill that sheet metal out 5/16. It's about that thick, hole's about that size. This is a good analog, but don't have really a good way to hold it. However, this piece of stainless that I had prepped as a bracket for the muffler that I ended up not using because it was a spare, is close enough, because that's 3/8 if you remember. And I want to test one of these real quick just to make sure it'll pull flat, because I would hate to put that thing in there and then draw on it and have it, you know, leave a 1/8 inch gap, and then it just, you know, spin in the air and back behind the metal, and it would be totally worthless, and I would have to somehow figure out how to drill it out, or I guess rip it or something. I got one shot at this, basically. So if these guys don't work, I'm going to try one of these. I think these will fit in a 1/4 inch hole. Yeah. They seem a little bit, nah, they're 5/16 too, but that's my thought. It's probably to like take these little serrations they have so that they can sink into wood or drywall or something and not spin. Maybe file those down a little bit flat, because I don't really have a lot of clearance behind this. And just see if I can get that to work. Only downside is these are like a 6 and 40 or something like that, and I would much rather it be a 10 and 32 like the other one. This is the only countersunk, you know, 8 and 40 or whatever size that is that I have. And I don't know if that, I think that might actually go through the hole that I have in the plate, in which case I'll need to put a washer behind it. But then again, it's short enough that I can probably just use like, you know, a regular round cap screw. But we'll see. I'm gonna stick one of these guys in here and draw it down with a screwdriver and just see whether or not it will pull flush and be flat against something about this thick, which is about as thick as that sheet metal. Sheet metal's a little bit less, so we will see. Okay, well, that actually ain't too bad. Took the gamble on that, and I took the ball peen hammer and just kind of massaged, you know, that body panel inward a little bit. So I think we will clear, and it's not going to add any more height to it because I beat the steel in like that. So it should hopefully
be cupped, and it appears to be. So I'm gonna go grab the bracket and make sure it still fits. And yeah, then I just gotta go find my cousin and get him to booger weld that thing up for me, and then I can, you know, cut it, polish it, sand it, bevel it, paint it, or prime it, paint it, and maybe even get it dipped in plastisol or something on a couple of key points just so it doesn't rub up against things. If I got the, you know, space to spare, we'll see. No, that's pretty good. You know, ain't too terrible. I keep bending this out and it keeps not being enough every time, and I think I'm kind of sick of it. I'll bend it one last time when I take it off here in a second. But if I just come up over here and give it just a little bit of torque, you can close it without banging the door into it. After I get this painted and everything, I think I'm going to do a couple wrap. I'm going to paint this outside black. I like it to be, you know, visible. I might paint it chrome actually, but like, I don't want it to be white. I don't want it to be hidden and, you know, somebody walk into it, bend it like that, and then my door's, you know, locked. That would be annoying. But I think I'm going to paint like all of this white, and then all of this either chrome or black, and then I'll put like a couple wraps of electrical tape or maybe some plastisol or something right here, just as a little cushion, so it doesn't just slam into the paint all the time. I'm going to torque this just a little bit more. But at the moment, that works. And I measured this, and this allows for a 3/4 inch rod to fit through it. And, you know, that'll fit whatever the hell you want. And then the distance between the two is 12 inches. Should be fine. And yeah, just need to go get that booger welded. Then we can paint it. Then I can buy a bike lock, and then that'll be a terrible jury rig solution, but a solution nonetheless. Well, I elected not to weld this thing, and by that I mean coincidentally my cousin just so happened to pack all of his welding stuff up into the shipping container he was working out of and moved it to his house rather than the, you know, family shop. So all that's kind of, you know, out of commission for the minute. So I just decided, you know, the welding was, you know, it was ideal, but, you know, it was overkill. I mean, this is the weakest link. Let's be real. So I just ran what was it, 5/32 straight through, I think. Might have been 3/16. Anywho, I just grabbed a drill bit, ran it through, and tapped it for 10 and 32 from this way, put a countersunk machine screw through this way, tighten that all the way down. I put a high strength Loctite on it as well, and then put a flush facing nut on the back side of that, and I'm going to let all that cure, and I'm going to just zip this off right here. Then I think what I'm going to do is just wrap maybe a half dozen loops of lock wire around this, and then another one this way just to tension it, and then I'm just going to stuff this thing, this whole little corner right here, just full of JB weld, just a steel stick, and then, you know, just angle grind and sand that down all flush like as I see fit, and that should be more than sufficient. So that's what we're going with. I don't need to be putting in any more effort and burning up favors with cousins for something as stupid and worthless as this. All right, well, there's pretty thick, yeah, that's a solid chunk of ice in the back of the John boat. So that's about as cold as it's gonna get. So this thing should be nice and thoroughly cold. Oh yeah, we have an icicle over here underneath the spigot. So, yep, we're through the cold part of the year, so it's all warm from here on out. It's just January for us down here in Charleston, so lucky me. We'll see if this guy cranks up. I haven't started her in a week. Don't know if I still got battery left. I just want to know if I need to charge it today. Sounds like I should have barely enough. Here goes nothing. Oh yeah, we were just about out of battery. But she still came alive, so if she'll start, you know, in close to freezing temperatures, the block is probably sub-freezing, then I consider this a reliable start for any time in Charleston. Listen to that.
That's what it's been doing whenever it's cold. It's kind of lopey. It like builds up to like 1,000 RPM and then it drops off to like 600. And I'm guessing it's just because it's cold. I don't know if it might have a fuel delivery issue. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Tried looking up what that was and couldn't really find anything. I'll have to keep looking. Anyway, I don't care. Okay, so it's finally over like 40 degrees out for once. So I was able to get in here with the epoxy and just kind of slather this up. So that'll bond that all together kind of. I created a little dam in there. Up in here I kind of just stuffed some masking tape up like that and then wrapped around it so I could jam epoxy. Can you not do that, please? Down in the back side of this. So there's a tube of epoxy going down on the back side of this fold, and I've just slathered it all around and all over everything. So that should be more than sufficient, and it's a lot quicker than getting that welded when you don't have a welder. Alright, so the epoxy's cured for about a little over 18 hours, 20 hours or something like that, and it's fairly hard now. I just took off all the masking tape, and so that's what I got. I think I'm going to just hit this with a file real quick, just to get down to the masking tape back in here, and just kind of round these corners off and kind of flatten this off a little bit, and just kind of bevel off all these edges, just to make it not look as ghastly. And then we're going to hit it with some primer, if I have any primer. If I don't have any primer, we're just going to hit it with some black and white metallic paint, and just call it a day. Okie dokie. A little bit of filing, and that is now a little bit more of a regular shape. Still not great, but it wasn't to begin with. And yeah, this is the paint we got. So again, I'm going to paint the inside of this white and the outside of this black, so that the black matches the black trim on the car and the white matches the white, paint. These are the paints I got because that's what's in the box. We've got this almost empty can of Color Place Rust Control Spray Enamel White, and this can of black satin enamel from Ace that I bought to make the diverter in the truck. So we're just gonna jostle them up and give this just a thick nasty coat. I guess I'll probably need to do 2 coats on this, so I'll probably do just a rough white and a rough black, and then we'll come back and we'll tape it off, and then we'll do a nice good coat of white and then a nice good coat of black after that. That should be good enough. It just needs to pass the squint test from the other side of a parking lot. Okie dokie. Black is just about done. Probably put 4 coats of that. Waited a minute between each because I'm lazy, but the can also says I can do that, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm just gonna let that air dry for about 5-10 minutes, and then I will flip it over and we'll paint the bottom white, and then I'll let all this set for about probably an hour. Then I'll come back, peel that tape off, and then do another quick coat of black to get that little skirt there in the middle. Actually, no, I'm gonna wrap that in electrical tape. That's what I said I was gonna do. And well, I'll hit it with black first, then I'll wrap it with electrical tape, and that'll give me a nice little buffer so I don't mess up the paint on the car. like I care about that. All right, well, the white's done, and that looks horrible. Lots of big old fat globs and everything, and had just a touch of grease right here or something. The paint wouldn't take. I had to put like 6 coats on it. But yeah, I don't care. It's gonna be behind the door anyway, so no one's really gonna see it. So I'm gonna let this sit for 5-10 minutes, then hit the black again, because that can of white paint's really old and really cheap and sucks. And that can of Ace black satin enamel I bought's really nice, so I should be able to just feather all that away, peel off tape after about half an hour, and wrap some electrical tape on it, and see if I need to do anything else. Alright, well, pulled the masking tape off, gave it another coat of black, and all I just need to do is let this dry a bit, pull that tape back off, wrap some electrical tape right there at the middle section where the door is going to hit it, and I think we'll be ready to test it. Alright, well, there it is. Put some electrical tape on there just so that the door doesn't, slam into steel every time. And yeah, that looks a lot worse than anticipated, but also I don't know what I was expecting to begin with. This needs to be like, 90s computer case, like beige, but it's bright white. I'll just rub my greasy mitts all over it. It'll turn yellow eventually, or let it sit out in the sun, one of the two. But it's good enough. Again, it's inside the door. I don't even know why I bothered painting it. I think I did that just so it wouldn't rust. But yeah, I'm gonna let this cure for a little bit more. Just let it sit out and cook in the sun for another hour or two. And then we'll throw it on the car and just see how it fits. Okie dokie, so I got her mocked up and installed on the car. Let's see if the door still shuts. Nice. As you can see, the electrical tape, non-marring. So that's lined up perfectly. And how does that look on the line of the car? Honestly, that does not stick out as much as I thought it would. Well, it's glaringly obvious when you get up close like this, but you know, that satin enamel actually blends in fairly decently. Once I get some armor all on this stuff, if that ever happens, you know, won't actually stick out all that much. I mean, considering all the other crap going on, it kind of looks, you know, like it belongs. That's not as horrible as it could have been. Still horrible, but not as. So, for a lock, what I've got worked up is this 4-foot, like, steel cable that I don't know where I got this from, but I had it, and it ended up being the perfect length. And what I can do is just stick that right on through there, like that, and then this is plasticized, so it's not going to mess up the paint. And then I'll do basically 2 wraps through like this and leave both hoops right here. And then I have this lock that is not going to be the final one that goes on here, but it's the correct size to do a mock-up for this. I'm going to get myself just a regular combination lock. It's not hyper secure. I mean, you can just walk up and like kick this probably, but I'll be able to just lock it like that, and then you won't be able to open the door but maybe like a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to stick that on there and try not to mess up the paint because it's not fully dried yet. Alright, so that's what I was shooting for. Now, theoretically, if I open this, I won't be able to open the door. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. Yeah, you can only just barely kind of get in there. And then the door lock over here doesn't work, so they'll spend all that time fiddling with this, or trying to reach a really long bar in over there. But, yeah. So, you cannot open it, and I don't want to do that anymore because I will bend that bracket. But that's what I was trying to go for right there. So, that worked out just fucking mint. Alright, well that's removed. I left that in the glove box and threw the cable in the trunk. I'm only going to be using that if for some godforsaken reason I need to drive this thing somewhere into town. And I really do not want somebody messing in the car. Because, like, you know, I'm not really worried about just, like, the tourists outside my office and stuff like that fiddling with the car. I mean, more likely than not, if I put a fucking bike lock on the outside of my car door, it's just going to make people mess with my car more. But, like, you know, I just don't want some fucking hobo taking a shit or coming in there and, like, stealing all the paperwork out of the glove box or something like that. And I mean, really, I need to just look into how to replace the I'm pretty sure it's just a tumbler lock, and if I can, you know, figure out how to get, like, what kind of pins and bitting and all that stuff is, I can probably, you know, buy a new tumbler and repin a lock for this thing that'll match the existing key. It's just a matter of if I can find the pins to do it to begin with. Okay, so I think just because I'm bored and I need something to do, I'm going to fiddle with this kickdown switch and see if I can get it to stop sticking. Just, you know, see if I can disassemble it partially and grease it up and whatnot and just kind of make it not do this. And if not, we'll see if I can buy another one. I have a feeling that's hopefully pretty cheap. Might be like a $10, $15 part. It would be nice to have a kickdown, just so that when I floor it, it doesn't just stay in fourth. But we'll see. Not a critical thing. Also, she was having some really bad like front end vibration when I was getting over 55 miles an hour. It's been doing that for forever. And I was thinking it might be, you know, bad shocks or something else really screwed up in the suspension. Then I remembered I never had the tires balanced. I just tore the old ones off and put new ones on and didn't even bother to remove the weights at all. So all that, you know, front end shake is probably just horribly imbalanced tires. So as soon as I get insurance, get this on the road, I'll take it down to a local tire shop and get all that sorted out, and then we'll see if it actually is the shocks. And that may actually get rid of a lot of that drivetrain, you know, shake. Probably won't. It's probably still the flex joints, but getting my tires balanced is a necessary thing I gotta get done, and there's not a cheap way for me to do that DIY. I mean, I take it to the local tire shop, like $20, they'll balance tires. So I'd have to spend like $100 in parts and equipment to be able to balance them myself. And with the volume of tires I need balanced, juice is not worth the squeeze there. So I am not going to expend the brain power or time on that. Okie dokie, so I pulled this sucker apart. It's just some locking tabs. See right there? You just kind of have to pry up and pull over a couple other tabs, and this top button comes out, and then you can get in there and clean it. It's just 2 pieces of plastic, a set of contacts, and like a spring, I think. There's nothing much to it. It's pretty robust. However, before I even got a chance to pry up in here and break these tabs, the ones on the front just snapped off. Like as soon as I cycled it just a half dozen times, and they just like blew out the side of it. And then this side over here, I don't know if you can see that, but they're cracked right down the middle. So, oh, and then of course, I can't get the thing to stick, and then, see, but it's way better now. I cleaned the snot out of it, and I wiped it down with some very expensive Aeroshell moly grease. And as long as it's cold, it works. But when it gets hot, it kind of jams up, especially if you press it off to the side. But I think it's good enough that I can throw it back in there. If it fails now, either it's going to stick down again, or it's just going to blow the button out the top of it. And I looked these up. They're $20. You can only get them as, like, I think as genuine Mercedes replacements, but they're not crazy expensive. If I feel the need, I can get one in the future, but I can't really repair these tabs. It's other than maybe like wrapping a piece of lock wire around this to keep it from like flying out. I can't really think of a way that I can fix this if that other set of tabs decides to go, but I'm gonna hug it back in here, and we might even plug it in. Okay, so I looked into it, and it's actually really easy to take these door handles off. And when I was working on getting the the window to go up and down, I seem to remember seeing an access panel. Oh yeah, there we are. So it's kind of different on this model of W123 than some of the other ones. But it looks like you might have to pull out some of the weather stripping, but there are 2 screws that hold it in, and it looks like this one, they're just kind of fucked. And I'm hoping I might be able to pry this out without ruining everything. But I can take both of those screws out, and then apparently in the late model ones, there is, I might need the key to be able to get the handle out, but we will see. But if you recall, tumblers don't tumble, which is not a good sign, and I would like it to not do that. I have a feeling that the pins are like stuck up and seized, or the springs broke or something, because it doesn't feel right. Like, yeah, I don't get any resistance. It seems like it's locked up. So I'm hoping I can get this out here and work on it. So I'm going to try and get this handle out, and I should just be able to pull that screw out, and then you just kind of just pop, and then the whole handle comes out. Unless there's an interlock thing in there, in which case it won't come out, and then we'll be fucked. But I will try and get that out, because I would like to fiddle with that, and if we can get that one to work, I think I can get that one out and do the same, but that one is super fucked, so we'll see. Well, that was actually really fucking anticlimactic. I took that one screw out. You do have to pull the weather stripping out. Thankfully, it's still soft enough that I was able to do that. One of them was already missing, and that one was only on with like half the thread, so I'm going to need to find another one of these to stick back in there, probably metric thread, never will. And then I couldn't get it out. It's got the whatever the later model has, but I can't get it any further out than that far. And what I've heard is that you have to be able to turn the key, and then you can pull it out. But as you can see, key works, because I couldn't get it to turn, so I couldn't get it out. So I just grabbed the PB blaster out of the trunk and just filled the whole thing up. Walked over there, filled that one up, came back, filled this one up, stuck key in, and turned. So that's all it was. It was exactly what I said it was. Tumblers were just stuck and just jammed up in the bore. They're probably all brass, so they just had some verdigris on them. Just needed a little bit of lubrication. They pop free. So yeah, we have a functioning door lock over here now. So I mean, and it's like 40 out. Like, it's not even like, yeah, that's like buttery smooth now.
Anyway, that's fucking wild. Actually, I need to keep that grease on there. So I'll put that screw back in, try and see if I can find another one. I'll go check the pitch on that. And then we'll jam the weather stripping back in. I'm interested to see if this one does anything. I mean, this stuff has only been in here for like 2 seconds. Or 2 minutes. Yeah, this one's got like dirt or rock or something jammed in it. Yeah, I don't know. I can't even see. I'm pretty sure these are a pin tumbler design. They're not wafers. Like, a standard, cart. Oh, yeah, there we go. That's exactly what it was. Pins are just jammed. So, I'll go see if I can find like a pick or something jamming there. Snap that off and see if we can get that working any better. But that was entirely unexpected. Like, all that took was just a big old whiff of oil, and now she's working just fine. Let me make sure that's unlocked. So yeah, I'm gonna go check that thread pitch so I can go find one of these at the hardware store. And yeah, I think it's like roughly a 3/8 shaft, and that's something close to like 12 and 40 or 12 and 24, whatever it is, the SAE equivalent. So yeah, I'm gonna shut up and do that. Alright, well, that ended up being 1/4 and 28, so I just jammed a countersunk screw up in there that was approximately the right size, because it was the only thing I had that size. It looks like somebody's been in there before, because this has been cut before. I think this whole door has been repainted, because if you look, it's two-tone right here. I think it got banged. I think something happened to this or something, and I think they might have gotten another door from another car, swapped that in, and then swapped out the door handles so that the keys were the same. Because one of these was missing, and the weather stripping has been cut right here, conveniently where one could get in there to, replace a door handle. So I'm gonna go work on the driver's side. No luck on getting that to get a key inserted in there, but I haven't picked at it yet. But that's because, for whatever reason, the dust shield has been deleted, or at least fucking jammed up in there, or someone shoved a screwdriver in there and bashed it in or something, and it's just a gaping hallway. So I've got no idea what the hell the pins are doing in there, and I need to really dig my eyeballs down in there and see what the hell's going on, and give it a little bit more sauce and a little bit more time and a little bit too much force probably. Alright, well, I'm working on this one, and I'm made minor progress. I can get the key the whole way in now, and it looks like the reason why it was all banged up before is because some other poor soul was doing literally the exact same thing I was doing. They were jamming a screwdriver in like this, and it is a wafer lock, by the way. I thought it was pin tumbler, but it looks like on the later ones they went to a wafer lock, because it is definitely wafers in here, and I am just jamming a screwdriver as far in there as I can and just moving up and just kind of just pushing on the wafers, trying to free them up, and they're pretty seized. And this whole lock mechanism over here is also seized, so I don't really know what that's about. But I'm just trying to work the PB blaster and the Teflon lube up in here, just to, be hopeful a little bit, and then get that in there and just give it some jiggles and just see if it does something. But I'm not very hopeful. I'm gonna have to look up how to get one of these door handles off if you don't have the key. I think it's kind of a stupid security design that you can, like, they made it so that you can't take the door handle off unless you have the key, but you have to have the door open to get the door handle off. So yeah, I don't know, it just seems kind of stupid. Like, I mean, if I can get into the car, then, I have all the time in the world. I can take the door handle off and cut stuff off, and I can take the whole fucking door off and replace the door if I want. It's not a security feature, for me to not be able to just take the door handle off and put in a new door handle with a new pin and tumbler, because I can just take the whole damn door off, I guess. I don't know. I don't understand what that is about, but I'm gonna have to look into how to get one of these off if I can't get the key to turn in there. Probably I just have to take the door panel off, and then I'm hoping there's like a linkage up in there with like some sort of, you know, detent or cotter pin on it or something I can pull, and then I can pull an extra linkage out of this and be able to fiddle with it. And then I can potentially pull the tumbler out, really work on that. And I'm like 62% certain that I can probably get this free if I can get it on a bench. And if not, then I can just like, I don't know, jerry rig the wafer so that it's always open. And I mean, you could just stick a screwdriver in there and turn it, but you know, I'm not looking for super security. I mean, you saw what I was doing. But yeah, I will look into that a little bit more, and I'll fiddle with this a bit more, and hopefully I can get this door lock working, and then all of that would have been wasted time. Okay, so I've been spraying some PB Blaster in this off and on, but I still can't get the original key to do anything. Seems like all the wafers are stuck now, but you know, still no turnage. So I need to disassemble the whole door panel, and I have to take this this door lock actuator off so that I can, you know, then sort of just shove it into the door a little bit so I can get this out just far enough that I can spin it and then pull it out of the lock actuator, because that's what's holding it in. Is when the door is locked, there's sort of a flag on the back that's in that actuator, so it sticks up like that, and so you can't pull it out. You turn it off and there's a slot and it comes out. So I just have to push the actuator far enough in that I can then spin this, get it far enough outside the door that it'll spin. So that's what I'm going to be working on this afternoon, or at least it was until got in the thing to drive it over here, and we got some of that going on. Absolutely zero brakes. So I'm glad that failed now and not later, but come on over to the master cylinder and sure enough, bone dry. So we got a brake fluid leak somewhere. That happened just over the last week. Brakes were fine last week. So now fun, I get to figure out, oh yep, there it is. It's this guy right here. I think, at least, unless that's the fucking fuel system leaking again. But yeah, either we had a caliper fail, or maybe a line rusted off, or maybe a mouse got in here and chewed through a soft line. I don't know, I can't really tell. Well, the soft line looks fine, so that's a really bad sign, which means it's probably a metal line that rusted through. Fuck balls. Of course, it's got to be the longest damn one on the car. So anywho, I'm going to investigate that real quick, but car's DQ'd for now, so great, get to push it back in the tree row for another couple of months till I can fucking get brake lines and shit for it. Awesome. Well, here's something interesting. Brake line's fine. The entire rear brake line is fine all the way up to the master. There's no brake fluid anywhere on the rim or on the tire, or on that rim or that tire. Both soft lines are fine. Both calipers are dry. That is actually two-way. If you can see that little guy over there, that's the shock. So that's actually the fluid in the, you know, hydraulic shock actually leaking out. I knew the shocks were bad. I didn't know they were that bad. So both rear shocks are toast, and they're actually leaking oil. And that's what's dripping out right now is oil from the shock. Front driver side is also like that. Front passenger side is the best of the four, and it still looks bad. Also, it is compressed the most out of any of them, so I couldn't even tell if I wanted to. Coming up here at the front, I don't see anything obvious on either of these wheels either. Usually whenever I have a brake caliper or a wheel cylinder fail, there's, the whole tire is soaked. I think it might be this one. That's got a little bit of some smuts on it I couldn't see from the other side. So I'm going to assume it's that one. That is also the one with the fucked up caliper. So I'm hoping it's this one, honestly. That one or that one, either of the fronts, because I needed to do the front brakes, or I needed to replace the front caliper. So I would love if they broke, because then I could replace them. Also, it makes a lot more sense if the whole system drained if it was one of the front ones than if it was one of the back ones. Well, actually, there's fluid still in here. I don't know which of these reservoirs is the front and which is the back. But this one is full. Yeah, actually, it's not the rears because this is the rear reservoir right here, and it's still perfectly full, so that's fine. I still have like 5% brake. Like, it's the last little bit of the pedal. So that one's still fine. So it's not the rear, so it's one of the fronts. And this one is literally just straight down. And this guy goes over that way. But I do not see any wetness on the other side of the car. And I just now noticed that kind of like discoloration right there. So I'm going to assume it's that one. We're going to switch over to that. But this shock over here is definitely toast. You can see the grease coming out the bottom of it. So I knew I needed new shocks, but now I know I really need new shocks. And you know, the rear, I don't know if you can see it from back here, but the rear flex disc on the drive shaft is also, you know, coming apart. And I didn't know this, but this car also has a U-joint in the middle, so I'm sure that needs to be done too. And it also has a support bearing, which I kind of halfway knew about and didn't want to believe. So I may need to do a U-joint, 2 flex discs, a support bearing. I have to drop the trans support in order to do the front flex disc. So new trans mount, 4 new shocks, 2 new calipers. If I'm going to buy new front calipers, might as well buy new rear calipers. Hopefully I can get the kind with the correct hardware that I already just bought that's brand new on it. I'm sure a caliper comes with new hardware, I would hope, but just to be safe, I'll buy the ones I already have hardware for. Actually, I bought the wrong one for that one, so I already got that anyway. I might switch. I think this one is Bendix, and the front is ATE. So I might switch them both to the same thing, just to make my life easier. We'll see. But, yeah, so brake overhaul, new shocks, rebuild the drive shaft. Great. And all I wanted to do today was take a door handle off. Such is life when you drive pieces of shit. I don't even drive this damn thing. It just sits in my yard. Well, you know what they say. When life gives you lemons, try and monetize it. Or at the very least, get pity exposure points on social media. So I'm just taking some never sees, and I'm just never seizing these lug bolts because I've never done that for some reason. And putting them all back on, and I'm also going to go around all 4 tires, and I'm going to pull off all the wheel weights because, like I said, I bought some balancing beads, and I really want to see if they'll work on these. I have fairly skinny tires, so I think they'll work fine. It's a little bit more expensive than me just taking these down to a tire shop and getting them balanced, but I can do it at home, and I don't have to put this thing up on stands and drive around town and do it. And at the, you know, for the amount of effort I'm putting in, the extra like $5 I'm spending is worth it. Plus, I really want to know if they work, because if they work, I might use them on a couple other things. I hear they're good for tall, skinny tires, so like tractor trailers, antique cars, and trailers themselves. But you know, off-road tires like what I got on the truck or on Theseus, the big fat wide tires, doesn't work too well. But I want to see if they'll work on this thing, because the interesting thing about balancing beads is they don't just balance the tire, they balance the entire rotating assembly in front of the bearing, which I think is really nice. And I think that's really compelling in an old clapped out, worn out car like this, because I can, you know, take up dynamically a whole bunch of slop in the front end just with balancing beads. So I'm interested to see how they work, and you'll get to see that, when I get to that point. So I'm going to shut up and I'm going to get back to greasing things and pulling wheel weights. And then eventually we'll work our way over to that wheel, and I'll pull that wheel all the way off the rim. And we'll find out if it is indeed that caliper. And if it is, then it's time for new calipers, new shocks, new center support bearing, new trans mount, new U-joints, might as well, new flex discs. And yeah, bye-bye like $700. Alright, well, it's not that one. This caliper's bone dry. I don't see a single sign anywhere on this wheel of any kind of staining or oil or wetness. If it gets down into this brake powder and stuff like that, usually it'll last a couple of days. And like I said, it's been cold out and it's only been like a week, so there should still be some kind of residue left. But anywho, doesn't appear to be that one. Pop that wheel weight off, no problem. 2 down, 2 to go. Alright, there's number 3.
got both wheel weights off of that. Weirdly, there was one wheel weight there and one wheel weight there, so they were offset about 45 degrees. I don't understand what that's about. I don't know why they didn't just put one here and one here, but whatever. Sure. Also, interestingly, it looks like that little cotter pin guy kicked out, so we got this nice shiny groove carved the whole way around the inside of the wheel, so I'm going to try and address that real quick. And, you know, some frame softness back here, so, you know, that's always good. Oh, that's not really, you know, the most important part of the frame, but, you know, it's not horrible. I can't get a finger in there yet. It's not. We'll ignore that. So yeah, I'm gonna fiddle with that real quick, put this back on here, and then we'll get to the last wheel. Yeah, this one definitely appears to be the grimy one. Also, we have an acanthocephala in here for some reason. I don't know why he's down in here, but he is. So, you go over here and enjoy your life over there. Maybe brake fluid smells nice. But yeah, this one's definitely the one with the leak. You can see the residue right there. You can see, this is where it was before. Still see a little bit of wetness down in there. See if that's on the inside of the wheel. Yeah, just a little bit. Some more dead bugs in here. I don't know if this like melted the... It looks like the clear coat is coming off of this wheel, and it's not really happening on any of the other ones, so I wonder if that was the brake fluid as well, because that will eat clear coat. So that's interesting. Come on, wheel. Help a brother out here. And yeah, this one, I noticed this the other day, actually, when I looked at it, is that this was the only one that didn't have rust on the rotor, and I thought that was really weird, because I was just looking to see if, you know, these were seized or something like that. So, yeah, you can see some runoff down in there, too. However, no, I haven't found a leak yet. Oh, yep, there it is. Clear as day. That's it. You know, maybe if a man is really lucky, it's the bleeder. It's not. You know, rubber hose is fine. Yep. This is the one that's got the borked piston. This one has one of the old pads in it too. So that's what it is this caliper just failed. So that's 2 front calipers I gotta get. Guess I could do a rebuild. I could try that. We'll look at the cost. If it's... I'd like to keep the caliper body itself is just fine. So if I can get a rebuild kit for this for, you know, not a horrible amount more, I may just rebuild this one caliper. But if it's, you know, if it's like $35 for rebuild kit and like $60 for a new caliper, I'll just spend the $120 plus shipping and tax and get 2 new calipers and not have to worry about it, because you really don't want to chintz out on brakes. But anywho, that is our smoking gun, so I will look into parting that out. And I got one more wheel weight to get right there. That one was actually paired, so interesting. But anywho, so yeah, awesome. I would kind of like to be able to drive this thing a little bit. I'm wondering if I can just pour some more fluid in the master cylinder and just like pump bleed it. Yeah, it'll be enough that I can drive it today. I'm gonna have to buy more brake fluid anyway, so yeah. I do want to see what happened, whether or not these, you know, work, whether or not these wheels shake as bad without the wheel weights on them. So kind of want to see that. I think I might throw some brake fluid in this, pump bleed it, you know, as best as I can, and you know, if the brakes are still working somewhat and it's not just hemorrhaging out the bottom of this as soon as I pour it in, we might just go run up to the end of the road and back and just, you know, see whether or not my balance has improved by removing these wheel weights, because again, I did not balance the tires. I just threw dumped tires on this onto rims that were already balanced, so they could have been that, you know, these tires are fine and balanced because, you know, they're not terribly worn, and it was really just the weights throwing me off. I don't know, or the weights were balancing the wheels themselves and it's even worse. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, so I opened both bleeders and confirmed that I had fluid coming out of both. Topped up the master cylinder, popped both of these lines off of the front driver side and front passenger side, and bled those as best as I could by myself, reaching over here through here. So I've got fluid coming out of both of those, and I'm hoping
this thing will gravity bleed to somewhat, and it'll at least be, you know, drivable if I keep topping it off for the interim. Well, drivable, just enough that I can run it through the yard, and if I have to, I know I don't. Well, I still have the e-brake. E-brake works, but I don't think I want to drive this on the road, considering brakes are very, very mushy. You know, it's better than it was. Pedal comes back up, but it's very soft, like 10% brakes. So, anywho, hopefully these lines will gravity bleed to some degree. But that'll also put air in the master cylinder, so yeah, we're gonna have to go through all that when we get parts in. But, yep, more delays. But anywho, still made some kind of progress, so I'm gonna fire this up and just drive it through the yard real quick and just see if the brakes work at all. And then, yeah. Then I think I'm going to go park her out here in the sun from now on, just so that the battery doesn't die as often and the car can dry out a little bit more. So, yeah. Alright, so after just a little bit of trialing and tribulating, we got the handle off. All I needed to do was take off all of that just to be able to get it off. So you have to take both the door handle and the door lock off. As well as the vacuum actuator for the door lock, and then you also have to take this whole door lock mechanism off, which is 2 screws here and then 2 screws here, and these are a bear. I had to use PB blaster, a torch, a mallet, and a big boy Phillips head, and just sort of beat and massage that, and, you know, lean against it with my full body weight with 2 hands just to be able to pop the torque off to get those out. And I think we might have a deeper issue in this thing with the whole door lock mechanism, because this is the door lock, and right now it's currently locked-ish. If I do this, it's unlocked. That seems right, but if I do this, it doesn't lock. It only locks if the door is all the way back shut, like that. Then you can pop this down and it locks. And I don't think it's going in all the way. I don't know if you can see this, but you see that little pin right there? I think that's supposed to be all the way down into that deeper recess down in there, and it's only just sort of halfway jammed up in the track. And I don't know why that is. That pin might be galled up or bashed up or something, and it doesn't fit anymore. But that's the only way I can get this to lock. And if I unlock it, then it doesn't go back in unless the door is all the way shut, like that. Then it will lock, sort of. And I have to fit all that back in there to see if it actually is locking all the way. And I don't know, you know, if it's any different over there, but I'm not taking that door apart to find out. But that theoretically is locked. So this still does not unlock, so this definitely is borked. So I'll peel that apart inside and see if I can get it to go back together. But I'm going to get all of these linkages back in here and make sure I can still open this door from the inside, and put it all back together and fiddle with that in peace and quiet. And, you know, also pretty sure I have to drive out a roll pin and some other stuff, so I just need to, like, soak it in PB blaster, probably just, you know, this deep for a month or so. Alright, so you look right here, bam, I got it to work. So what had happened was there was a cast zinc, what do we call it, follower or whatever, in here that holds all the wafers, and that had seized to this cast iron, cast zinc, whatever this housing is made out of. And so this wouldn't turn, not because the wafers weren't moving, but because the entire, I guess it's the tumbler, was just seized into this housing. So what I did was I removed this guy. It's just a 3mm, I think, Allen. You just back that out and this whole thing comes off the plastic bit. Then it's a 16th inch roll pin that you pop out of there, and then this bar and this little top guy doohickey flippy boy comes off, along with a spring down in here. My spring is actually broken. It's supposed to have 2 little guys sticking up, and you can see it's broken off down there. Just means it doesn't spring back into place, nothing big. So you take that off, and then I took a 5/16 deep well socket, and you can probably actually fit it through there, honestly. And I just slowly tap that with the ball peen hammer while I had it stuck in the vise like this. And then, oh, and I did that with the key in here, just in case, but actually the whole tumbler can just come right out, you know, key or not. So I just tapped that guy out, and then once I had it out, I took a file and a little scraper, scraped out all the oily zinc oxide mung out of there, and then filed the whole thing smooth, and then sprayed the hell out of everything with carb cleaner. And then once it was all nice and clean and I could get it to kind of roll around in there, I just soaked it down with some of the Teflon lube, stuck it all back together, and now it works pretty decently. Now, theoretically, I can just sort of worm this right back into the car and just slide it in, and it then screw those two guys in, and we're good to go. So I think I'm gonna try that real quick. That was not as painful as I expected. Okie dokie, moment of truth. All right, door unlocks. It locks. It unlocks again. Bam! Now we have two functioning door locks. The tumbler on this one wants to escape. A trunk that even locks. And another functioning door lock. There. Bam. Bam. And hopefully, bam. So we can actually lock the car now. So that whole ordeal I went through designing and building that was totally for nothing. But at least if this door lock ever breaks again, we do have that option. Nice. All right, well, it's a week later and I have parts, and we are hopefully going to get the front brake calipers replaced. I went with Bendix instead of ATE on the front because I saved like $30 per caliper, so that's the only reason. And we went with Nugian because they were the cheapest with the smallest core charge, so that's the only reason. And that's what we're doing. I also have my balancing beads and another small addition to the dashboard that we're going to throw in right quick, and you'll be able to track my suffering in real time as we go into the summer. This is a little El Cheapy Chinese humidometer slash thermometer, and I am just gonna, with double back tape, stick this right up here on the dash so that I have an accurate idea of you know, the relative degree that I am suffering in this car with a non-working AC and a massive rain leak that just dumps water into it all the time. So at the moment it is not humid for South Carolina. We're sitting in an ambient humidity of about 45, and yeah, I'm going to glue this down to the dash, and we'll check back in on this at the end of the day after it's sat out in the sun and all the water embedded in the dirt on the floor, you know, wafts up, and you know, you can see just how fucked our atmosphere is out here. Okie dokie, we've got the left side done as well as the right side done. These didn't fight too much, well, less than I thought. I don't think this one over here was ever working, and this one was definitely bad. As soon as I, you know, squeezed on the brake pads to kind of, you know, loosen up the caliper a bit, it just pissed brake fluid right out the one of the pistons. And it was actually the piston I didn't think was going to be the problem. But anywho, that one was bad, so it's been replaced. The other one was still fine. But like I was saying, I don't think that one over there has worked at all because the pads were, you know, not really any less tight than when they were when I put them in, and these actually slid out by hand. So these were wearing, those weren't. So that's kind of concerning, but it's a good thing we're doing it then. I'm glad it at least blew up. I was going to do it eventually, but, you know, it was, you know, next winter, not this winter kind of time frame. But anywho, I digress. That's been done. If you're wondering what you got to do to replace the calipers, is basically strip your pads out, do the same thing you would do if you were, you know, going to be replacing your pads. Pull out your brake wear sensors, pull out all of your hardware, and pull out your pads. Then you also need to take off the wear sensor harness. It's just a 10mm bolt back here. Pull that off. This comes off the back. Then you undo that line up there, loosen that line right there, trick if you want to try and save your brake fluid a little bit. Get a 1/4 inch vacuum hose cap and just jam it onto the brake line, and that'll plug it off, and then you won't lose as much fluid, so you don't have to bleed as much, and you don't run the risk of running it dry all the way up to the master so much. Then it is 2 19mm bolts holding this guy onto the hub. Just take those out, and then this whole thing will come out. Take your soft hose off, slap the new caliper in, put the soft hose on, hook the hard line back up, or actually I would wait to put this guy back on, torque those down. I don't know what torque spec is, but I put them to like 90, just as tight as I could, where I felt like I would be able to get them off if I ever needed to. And then just put your pads and hardware and sensor back in. It's really that easy. Not as easy as some other cars, but honestly not too horrible. I went with Bendix calipers, so I would have Bendix the whole way around. That's just the hardware system, and I would recommend ATE if you can get it. The last ones were ATE. I got the Bendix because they were a little bit cheaper, and these are a lot more of a pain in the ass to install. So I would go with the ATE if you can. But anywho, those are on. Now I need to bleed them as best as I can. I'm just gonna hook up the sucky boy and give that a good suck. And then I think I will try and bleed the master a little bit if possible. I don't know whether or not that actually went dry, but it has held fluid over the last week. So I don't think it's got air in it, but we'll test the brakes. We'll see how that is. But I'm just gonna hook the sucky boy up, suck him dry, and hope for the best. All right, brakes are bled. Sucky boy didn't work too good. Had to go to the old-fashioned method and enlist Dad. But brakes are now really firm, better than my Jeep, so that's a good thing. Also, that ain't saying much. Yeah, they're good to go. Should have front brakes. So before we go test them, I'm going to do these counteract balancing beads. So like I was talking about before, basically these are a dynamic wheel balancing system. You dump them in the tire and they will balance the tire, the wheel, the hub, the rotor, basically everything above the bearing itself, above the bearing surface. It will balance that dynamically, continuously, when you're above a certain speed. So, I mean, this kit cost me like, I think like $40. So that's like $10 a tire. I mean, I'm not saving much over a, just getting them balanced at a tire shop. However, what I am doing is I'm also balancing that part of the assembly, and it is dynamically balancing, so it balances throughout the life of the tire. So you never have to get them, rebalanced. They can't fall off. The only issue that they can have is that they will clog just sort of generic valve stem. So you have to get the shielded type, or you can also get a filtered type. And that just prevents any of the media from getting stuck behind it and then letting all your air out of your tire. So I'm hoping these are going to work pretty well. I saw someone make an account that they worked on their 195/70 R14 tires, which is what I have, I believe, wherever it says it. So these work best on tall, skinny tires, and these are not particularly tall, but they are pretty skinny. So I think they'll work. And yeah, and if they don't, then I got to get new tires anyway here shortly, probably in the next year. These are starting to get really weather checked. But I would like to, get like 1,000 miles or so out of it. I'd like to get an oil change out of these, maybe 4,000 miles. And yeah, I'm going to shut up and get to it. And hopefully this should be pretty painless and not take 7 hours. All right, well, we're on to wheel number 2 now. And I think that first one probably took me 15-20 minutes. This is very tedious. I would recommend doing this with new tires. If you plan on using balancing beads. Personally, I've never had an issue with weights. I don't do a lot of rock crawling, and with the, quasi-aggressive off-roading I do out here in the flat, sandy, mud-filled low country, I've never lost a wheel weight, surprisingly. So usually I'm fine with wheel weights. I'm just testing these out because I'm interested to see how they do. But very tedious. I would just throw the sack in with a new tire if you're planning on doing this. Takes quite a while. Yeah, I went with the 4-ounce kit, which is I think the second smallest that they do. So yeah, I can't imagine trying to do this with a 10-ounce kit. Be here for the whole damn day. My strategy has been to fill the tube up halfway and then just kind of pulsate it. That seems to be the most efficient, and then just kind of top it back off. If you go too far, then it kind of binds up like this, and you have to really give it the oomph. And yeah, you get hand cramps, but you'll get over it. Alright, that's 2 done. That one only took me about 10 minutes. So we've got them both on, got the lugs semi-torqued, got the compressor running. We're going to throw, I think, 32 PSI in both. It says to do 28 in the front, 32 in the rear. I don't understand that because all the weight's on the front. So I don't know why it wants less pressure on the front than on the rear. That seems really stupid to me. So I'm just going to throw 32 in all of them and call it a day. And yeah, that's odd. I don't know why. See, because like my butt is only slightly back. I mean, there's a whole engine here. And there's a whole transmission here. So why less pressure in the front? There's more weight on the front. I digress. Well, that took way longer than it needed to, but they're all done now. Everything's aired up. And just need to kick the chocks out, fire her up, and run her around. Make sure she still stops, and see if the front end wobble's gone. You know, the front end, ooh, you're in there. That front end wobble could have been just that one, like, brake caliper hanging up, maybe? There's always a possibility. But I'm going to think it's wheel balance. And, yeah. Let me get her fired up, and let's see if she stops. Let's see if she goes, and let's see if she goes straight-ish. Contact. Oh, man. I so love having done the glow plugs. Also, only one of these works now. It's probably because I pulled the instrument panel back out. Well, so far it stops. It's usually a good sign. Oh, she stops good. Alright, let's see if she stops good. Oh yeah. Way better. Better than it was before. Alright, let's see if she's still got shake. I think I just killed a frog. Rip frog. The death shake is pretty much gone, so I think that was wheel balance or a stuck caliper. So that's good news. Also, the brights don't want to stay on. Thank you. Well, she's doing 70, straight as an arrow, more or less. So the balancing beads don't really take over till about 50, I don't think. But that's when the wobble used to start anyway, so works out. Still a fair bit of steering wheel shake. I think that's mostly just all the worn out ball joints. But yeah, the death wobble's gone, so that was definitely wheel balance. So that's fantastic. Or brake rotors, one of the two. It seems to have been wheel balance. So yeah, we're making progress. We're not only are we back to where we were a week ago, we're now better than we were a week ago. So that's good news. If you don't use your W123 for cutting firewood, then why do you even own one? Well, there's been a shocking development with old Mossy. We have new shocks. Alright, so today we're working on the shocks. So let me just go around and show you everything that you need to get to if you got to do this yourself. So this is the top of the front shock. This is a stud that can freely rotate. It's got a little, I don't even know how big that is. Don't even bother, just put a vice grip on it. Stud out the top with a flat spot, and then these are both 17mm nuts, and they're lock nuts, so they're torqued together, and they're locked together, most likely. There's another one over here buried underneath the air cleaner, and this hose for the AC. So you're going to have to pop this guy off, pull this out of that bracket, and just fish it up on top of everything just to be able to get your mitts in there. Probably want to take the air cleaner off too. Then underneath, there's the bottom of the shock, and it is two 12.10mm bolts coming in from the top here and here. You can't get to this one unless you pull the spring out, or you take the top of the shock off and take this one out. Then you can pull the shock out, pitch it up over, and rotate this, and be able to get up inside of here to do anything. And these are 12.10 millimeter, which means, where is it? You need a 12.10 millimeter socket. Simple as. It's not e-Torx, it's just 12 point. Then back here on the rear, it is two 17 millimeter bolts down here underneath the control arm that you need to take off. They're not in there with too much torque. Thankfully, I was able to get the two that I could get to on the front free and all four on the back free. They're a little grimy and they're fighting a bit. Don't know if they've got a Loctite on them or if they're just very corroded, but I was able to get, you know, the 6 I was able to get to turn. For the rear, top of the shocks, you got to take the rear seat out. Just the 2 clips on the front for the bottom, pitch that up, pull it out, and in the back it is 8 millimeter bolts holding it down, and then there are 2 plastic covers on the other side. You got to peel back the sound deadening some to get to the top of the shock, and it's the same story as the front. Stud with flat spot and 2 17 millimeter lock nuts. The problem I have run into is that the top of every single one of these shocks is totally fucked for me. I cannot get any of them to come off, which means I'm gonna have to cut these. But I'm in a bit of a pickle because that's the fuel tank right there. So, and this is sound deadening in here, and I really do not want to get in here with an angle grinder and throw sparks. So I'm hoping I can get a reciprocating saw in here and cut through the rubber insulators. And that's really the only hope I got. I am extremely wary about, I think this is a, okay, no, it's a steel fuel tank, so I'm not super worried about the trunk, but you know, this is a big ass cavity down in here and there's spider webs and shit. I do not want to burn this car down. So I'm hoping what I can do is I may have to cut some of this out right here actually. But I'm hoping I can just worm a reciprocating saw blade down into this rubber and cut through the stud on the top, blow that out, and do the same for both of these. Oh Lord. Poor floorboard. Now up here on the front, this one, same dealio. There's the injection pump, there's all these fuel lines. The whole side of this car is soaked in diesel and oil. I really don't want to be just throwing sparks into this, so I think I have enough room. I can probably just undo these vacuum guys and hang them off to the side. I should be able to just jam a reciprocating saw up in there and cut it off. This side, nothing really flammable over here, so I'm hoping I can pull this out, or the air cleaner out, and I should have plenty of elbow room right there. Same story, reciprocating saw I have is pretty long. I think if I get rid of this, I can get it in right here. Not certain over here. Probably can still get in, but if not, I'm not worried about throwing sparks on this side. But that's what I'm gonna have to do, because I cannot get any of those to move, and I started rounding them with the vice grips. Actually, there is one other thing I do try before that. I actually, honest to goodness, don't think I have a proper 17 millimeter wrench anywhere. This is the best I got, is this flare nut wrench. I think I might have one buried in the Jeep somewhere, so I'm gonna try one of those first, because if I can get 2 17s on here, I can break one of these free. And if I can break one of them free, I can probably break both of them free. But we shall see. I will try that before I bust out the reciprocating saw. But yeah, it'll get done. I'm not worried about that. I just don't want to burn the car down in the process. So yeah, fun for me. Now, tight for time this weekend, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to this weekend or next weekend or whenever the hell I'll finally get to this, but I'm going to give it a college try this afternoon in the middle of the rain and tomorrow at the butt crack of dawn and the taint tip of night. So yeah, wish me luck. Another quick thing before we get into the interlude, I did take the measurements of the height of wheel well on both sides. We're 28 in the front, 30 in the back from floor to the black trim bar. And after I put the new shocks in, I'll measure that and I'll see if the car comes up at all. Because it feels like it's squatting a bit in the rear to me. Not so much in the front, but definitely in the rear. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not the car comes up at all, in addition to, you know, there being, you know, actual suspension and it not breaking my back when I drive it. Well, thank the Lord, I do in fact have a 17, so we will suffer a little bit more. And hopefully we can do this non-destructively. Not that it fucking matters. All right, so we have progress. I was able to go find my 17 as you saw, and with that, this one came off, no problem. I just pulled the hose out of the way, put the open end of the 17 on there, hit it with the little impact gun, and it just spun off. That one took 2 people in a breaker bar for some reason, and the 2 inside just took the flare nut wrench and the open end of the wrench, and those came off, no problem at all. So that's good. Don't have to murder anything. So I've just got the rear up on stands, and you don't have to take the wheels off, but you see how sketch my, jack stand situation is, so I would rather not put my neck underneath that while I work on this. So I'm going to spin the wheel off so I can get at everything from the outside of the car and only risk having my brain crushed like a grape rather than my neck chopped like a guillotine. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the rear shocks first, because then I can put it back on the ground, put the rear seat in and all that stuff. And then we'll move to the front ones. I think the front ones will fight a little bit, so I'm saving them for last, just to piss me off extra special. And yeah, these should hopefully just spin the 17s off the bottom. Shock falls out. You kind of just swiggle it out like that. Slide the new one up in. Bolt it all back in, and all should be good to go. I should probably take these things out of the trunk too as well. All right, well, I got one done. Didn't fight too much. I forgot about the whole having to put the jack underneath the control arm and raising it up and down and all that. It's a little bit finickier than I thought it was. It definitely cements why I don't like IRS, and I also don't like the IRS. But the reason why I don't like independent rear suspension is just because it makes everything a little bit harder. I mean, it's nicer, it's much better for a lot of things, but I like straight axles. It just makes your life simpler. So we're gonna come over here and do this one, and I hope I think I have enough daylight. I'll at least be able to attempt one of the front. But that one went in, wasn't too horrible. These KYBs, they have 9/16 on them, which is nice because I have wrenches, but the hardware is a lot wimpier than the OEM. And it looks like there's Bilsteins on the back. And I mean, you look at how terrible this shock is, and watch this. Oh, it's actually gotten worse since I pulled it out, but the shock is still functioning to some degree, but it's real slow. These could be heavy-duty Bilsteins, which are slow. The back end looks like it sags a shit ton, so could be that. And they're tired out, but they're still functioning. They're not totally kaput. So I'll be interested to see whether or not the one on the other side is just as bad or worse, and whether or not I believe these are KYBs on the front because they're white. Oh no, they're black on the front. I think it's Bilsteins all around. So anyway, we're going down. I could have swore one of these was white. Maybe I'm just stupid. But anywho, I'm gonna quit yammering and get to the rest of them. But we got one done, and I have all my limbs, and my head is still attached to my body, so that's a good sign. Okay, that one is out. New one is in. This one is a little bit worse than the one on the other side. One thing I will note about Mercedes is they at least don't skimp on the hardware. This rubber is still like soft after whatever this is now, 35 years. So really good isolators or insulators, whatever they call them, on these things. And I mean, like, the jounces are even intact. The jounces on my Jeep disintegrated after before the thing was even 15 years old. This is a 35-year-old car, and the jounces are still intact. So anywho, now we'll go on over to the front. These will either be easier or significantly harder. We will see. But back's done. Quick tip on these guys in here: when you're tightening them down, it's kind of nebulous when you've tightened the first nut far enough. It's when the stud starts to spin, it's because you don't want to tighten it too much. You don't want to torque the piss out of it, because you'll crush the rubber and they'll disintegrate, and then the shock won't work because you won't have any, isolators. But just keep turning it until the stud starts spinning, then jam on the lock nut and just counter torque, and you're good. So yeah, easy as pie. All right, took 2 hours, but we have new shocks. Ooh, you can't see it on this side. The whole way around, you saw that one, you can believe me. And yeah, I checked the height. I just backed her out, pulled her back up, and we're riding exactly 1/4 inch taller. So didn't really gain any height, but in just the short stretch I drove it around the yard, it definitely feels like we got shocks. None of these four, also they're all 4 Bilsteins. They all still work, but they don't work the same as the ones I put in. And it feels like the ones in the front were definitely a lot stiffer, like twice as stiff as the ones I took out. So they were definitely sacked out. The ones on the back were just slower. They weren't any stiffer. So yeah, hopefully we should be riding a lot better, because it felt like I didn't have any shocks. It felt like I was on just springs, but it looks like we do have shocks. And yeah, I'm going to throw the seats back in. Then after that gets done, I'm going to go run her up the road and run right down the washboard in the middle of my sand driveway, because it hasn't rained in a month, and see if, you know, whether or not the shocks are working or not. And then we'll go run it on the road and see if it tracks any better. I'm hopeful, but I don't think it's going to be much better, but I'm still hopeful. All right, seats are back in. Let's go take her for a rip, see if we can hit a deer and avoid some bumps or back damage. 1 and 2. I haven't decided which yet. So far so good. The car handles way better. I'm going right down the washboard and I barely feel it in my butt. So that's a fantastic sign. So come on now, Brights. So it looks like the shocks were indeed fucked. I mean, they were obviously fucked. All of them were leaking oil, but they were extra fucked. Because, oh man, let's hit a bump right here. Oh, that's better than the damn Jeep. Here's an even bigger one. Way better than the Jeep. As good as the truck. Nice. So, I think I can probably avoid back damage now, which is a great sign. And let's get her out on the road and see if she corners any better. Alright. Come on, shift now. Let's get some speed. Let's see how well she corners. Oh man, way better. Oh, there's somebody. There's a deer. Alright. Brights, can you stay on, please? Well, she still rolls a good bit, but not as much as she used to. Way more controllable. So that's a fantastic sign. There she is. I don't know if you can see her. Yep, there she goes. Come back Sunday. The piebald deer. Watching you. Alright, goodbye Sunday. Man, I gotta pressure wash this thing again. I don't know how it got so grimy again. Like, just look at this. This is the same mung that was on it when I washed it the first time. Anywho, it's something about being parked in the shade and being white and having no clear coat left. I'll have to figure something out about that, but not right now, because it's pollen season, as you can see by the nice yellow cast to everything. So she'll get washed in August, and it's March. Anywho, today I'm going to try and do the drive shaft flex joints. I've already got her up on ramps and up on jack stands, and surprisingly the jack stand held pressure all night, which is weird. But anywho, I'm also going to do the transmission mount, because you have to take this out to have the arm room to be able to get to the drive shaft flex joints. I don't think it's actually a requirement, but you just want to do it. And you know, new transmission mount was $8, so might as well do it while I'm in there. It's honestly would probably make the job take quarter or, you know, 2/3 the length. So we'll give it a whirl. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I have to go find my grease pencil to mark the drive shaft, but you just take all the bolts out of the rear, pry the thing. There's a little bit of wherever it is up here by the bearing, there's a little bit of slop, or a little bit of a distance it can travel. So you just push it forward, knock the old flex disc out, put the new one in, put it all back together, and away you go. On the front, it's a little harder because you have to take the trans mount out, which it's not going to be fun. And then you have the arm room to get up in there. I think theoretically I can probably get a wrench back up in there. We'll see if that's possible, just for fun. But if you have to take trans mount out, then you have to get a block of wood, and you gotta loosen up all the bolts on the trans mount, get a block of wood, jack up the transmission a skosh,
put it on the stand, etc., etc., etc. It's just more work, but we shall see. So I'll get to that. I don't know what the bolt size is. It's either 17, 18, or 19. So I'll just grab all three of those wrenches and figure it out, and we'll get to it. Alright, so I'm underneath this thing looking at bolt sizes. And I believe... Okay, so it's a 19 on top of the trans mount. I haven't checked the bottom yet. They're probably 13 or 12, something similar. Yeah, they're not 15. The trans support itself are 17s. And then over here on the drive shaft, the head of the bolt is a 15 and the back of the bolt is a 17. Additionally, I think the drive shaft bearing will probably need to be addressed because it does that. Damn sand. That looks like it's like a bushing and then a bearing inside of that. The bearing itself doesn't actually look bad, but the bushing is fucking toast. So I will look into that next, but let's see if we can do the rear, because the rear is fairly easy. And I don't have to do all of this. Plus, I only have like 2 hours to work on it right now, and then I gotta come back and finish it up later this weekend. Alright, so I've had this hard to fart creeper here for probably 2 years now, and I have never used it once. Because the Jeep and the truck are too tall for me to care, and the Mercedes is too short for me to even get under it with the creeper. But I think now is the perfect time to try it out, and so this is either going to be an amazing efficiency upgrade, or it's going to cause me to turn my whole body while I'm trying to torque something and slam into a jack stand and get crippled from the waist down. So we'll figure out whether it's a good thing or a bad thing here shortly. Alright, boys and girls, I think I'm just going to throw in the towel, because this guy is not coming off of either side of here, and I mean, if I really wanted to, I could chop this whole fucking rubber thing up, get in here, grab onto these metal pins, and yank them out. But the very slight vibration I get from the drive shaft is not enough for me to give any flying fucks about this. Because the problem I'm running into here is, you see how these stick out? Well, it's that far inside of both the drive shaft and the yoke for the differential. And they are thoroughly rusted in place. And I pried on there with all of my strength, and I have already busted my knuckle, smashed my fucking elbow, and punched myself in the damn face without me coming in here with a fucking saw and cutting this whole thing up and, like, burning this up on all of this diesel-soaked differential and all this other stuff. I am not getting that out, and once I start destructively removing this, there is no going back. And for the little bit of drive shaft vibration that I get, I'm okay not accidentally starting a 30-hour job right here. So I am just going to put all of these back, throw these guys in the trunk, and not worry about this until the drive shaft comes loose and fucking rattles around in here. I think I'll make an attempt to do the trans mount, because might as well. And if I can do, I'm hoping I can lift that up and slide that out without taking off the cross member. We'll see. I think I can, but yeah, I am not doing this today. I got a lot of other stuff I could be doing, and this is we'll wait until this explodes. I mean, the bushings themselves are not wallowed out at all. This is still firm. It is just disintegrating. Alright, new trans mount is in. That honestly didn't even take 15 minutes, so that's pretty easy. You just break both of these free, spin this 19 millimeter off the top, throw a board on your jack, run it the whole length, jack it up until the top thread clears, take these off, pull it out, slide the new one in, bolt these, get these bottom ones pretty close, lower it down till you just got about an 1/8 inch of a gap, run that guy down, line everything up so it sits pretty,
drop it down, torque everything, good to go. That was pretty easy. And the old one actually is still really pliable. Like, and it's honestly not in that bad of shape, but that was $8. So I replaced it. And this one has a little metal tubey guy in the middle. And I'm definitely going to save that because that is still in really good condition. And that's all the dirt that came out of that trans mount. Ooh.
Well, here's a slight update. Chinese does not like being in this car. It says it's 71 degrees in here and 99% humidity. The humidity is correct. I don't know if the 71 is correct, but then again, it is 99% humidity. That's what I'm having to deal with in this car most of the time, which is why it was very important for me to get the windows working. Now that I've given up completely on the drive shaft, we're going to move on to something else that will also piss me off. I'm going to try and tackle these ball joints. I'm not going to replace them because that would be work. I'm going to try and band-aid them, and I've mentioned this before, but I saw a trick online. I don't know how well it'll work. I don't think it's a permanent fix by any means, but you can wrap the whole thing in neoprene tape and then jam a grease needle in there, grease it up, and, it should, buy you some time. I think it's really intended if you have a crack in it, not if your ball joint has disappeared like mine has. But we'll give it a shot because the lower ball joints in this require me disassembling the entire knuckle and bearing and everything and getting the thing into a press and all this other shit. I don't want to do that, so we're going to attempt to band-aid this and see how long it lasts. Alright, so I just went by with a rag and just wiped off, well, all the sand that I just wiped back onto it with my sandy fingers. But this is kind of the prime candidate that this technique would probably work on, is something where the rubber is starting to split, there's air pockets and stuff like that, areas for grease to squish out. You could just jam the grease needle in there, pump some more grease in there, wrap some tape around it, and this should be good to go. The problem is I'm trying to apply that to this, where there is literally no boot left. So I'm going to tackle these first, because they're going to need the most tape and I don't want to run out. They're the most pressing. The upper ball joints, this one right here is actually entirely intact. The passenger side is in much better shape than the driver's side, but both of the lower ball joints are just gone. And I have to do something about them before they go, because I do not want to have to replace those. And all the boots over here are also pretty worn out. This one actually, oh no, this one looks really good, except it's split in half. These are all bad. This one's split in half. The top one's all split in half, the upper. So, yeah, I got my work cut out for me. I'm probably going to need another 3 rolls of this shit. Well, I think that actually worked. I wasn't able to get one of the ball joints, I think one of them, well, I wasn't able to do that one up, the upper up there, which was, if I can get the dang thing in frame, you gotta believe me, it's up there somewhere. I wasn't able to get that one, and I wasn't able to get this one right here on the steering system, and this one just barely has anything on it. But the grease needle worked perfectly, and these are really iffy on the lowers, but it's definitely better than what it was, and it holds grease in. We'll see how long they last on there, but that actually worked pretty well. I'm honestly surprised. We'll see how long it holds up, but as a Band-Aid, that's a pretty good Band-Aid. That's an actual Band-Aid brand Band-Aid, and that's not none of that Equate shit that falls off as soon as you sneeze on it. Alright, I think now is as good enough time as any to call the episode. I think I'm about done with all the mechanical bits I need to do to this car. I still need to work on the cooling system a little bit, and we still need to, detail the exterior, and could stand to work on the sunroof, but we'll leave that for another time. So if you like what I'm doing here, if you want to see the rest of this series, go down there, smash that subscribe button, comment, tell me what other things you think I should fix on this. But if they're a pain in the ass, I'm probably not going to do them. And till next time, Tom out.